somewhere. So so this is one of the three final lectures that I will conduct prior to the end of classes. Um so I will give a schedule, yung yung timetable muna natin. So I will address that later. Sabi ni Patricia Angeli Duty, good morning po. Sir, ask ko lang po when po magiging consultation natin. So I will address that later. Okay, sandali lang. Um, okay, so let's discuss. So we have the Paris Agreement. I think you're familiar with this already. So the goal is to decrease the global temperature rise to within 2 degrees prior to pre-industrial level. So the main reason why is it pre-industrial level is to primarily um, address the fact that after the industrial revolution, tumaas yung emissions. Okay, and then the strengthen the ability of countries to deal with the effects of climate change. So I want to emphasize that the Paris Agreement are nationally determined contributions. So ano lang yan, walang common standard with which countries adhere. So no common standard. No common standard across countries to adhere to for their climate change uh, efforts. So iba-iba yung standards ng bawat countries. Okay, I think that's enough to ano to to para emphasize. So walang pa iba-iba. Okay. And then next. So this has been the Paris Accord uh website, yung mga countries and their pledges. And then these are the pledges of countries with respect to their emissions. So China has the highest share of greenhouse gas emission, followed by the US, EU, and then India. So let's look at the target of EU. So the EU targets a 40% reduction in greenhouse gases by 2030. Reduction in greenhouse gases, so domestic reduction. So babawasan ang greenhouse gas emission by 40% relative to 1990s level. So this is the EU target. Okay. So let's look at US. Ano ba yung goal ng US? So ang goal ng US is bawasan yung kanilang target by 26 to 28% by 2025 compared to 2005. Okay, pakisagot. Compare the EU target with the US target. What is the difference what is the difference in basing 90 targets and 2005 target as baseline for measurements? So let's address this. Okay, so compare the EU with US targets. What is the difference in basing 1990 targets and 2005 targets? So let's go back. So yung US, ang target nila ay 26 to 28% reduction. Ang EU, ang target nila ay 40% reduction. Let's look at their share of greenhouse gas emission. US has a higher greenhouse gas emission, whereas EU has a lower greenhouse gas emission. So do you think it's fair? Okay, do you think it is fair that US and EU have different targets? Okay, since hindi po proportional, yes, make ganitong comment. Since hindi proportional sa kung gaano kadami ang contribution nila sa greenhouse gas, okay, any other? No, kasi target should be relative to their emission. What else? Okay, so it may appear that it is not fair, but then again, climate change efforts, I want to emphasize, are nationally determined contributions. The standards are set by the countries themselves. There's no common standard. Okay, so if you think about it, pwede mo rin itong i-address sa sa current life natin na it's hard to compare one standard from another country kasi hindi naman alam ng mga countries yung pinagdadaanan ng ibang countries. For example, sabi ni Patricia, fair naman kasi mukhang unfair. So, mukhang unfair kasi US has higher emission. For one, hindi natin alam yung pinagdadaanan ng US. So, perhaps, yan lang yung mabigay nila na pledge. So, and we should not interfere with their decision, no? We should not impose our some standard set by another country kasi impose yung standard na yan sa kanila. Clear? Is this clear? Um, um, so, pag nag-reflect kayo, dapat pag-isipan nyo, porket yung EU ba mas magaling na bata, bibukid sa target sa climate change, siya na yung susundan natin. Yung standard ba nung bibukid or nung nagpa-promise ng maganda, yung ba yung dapat standard din ng iba? Kasi possible na may ibang pinagdadaanan na yung ibang countries at hindi naman climate change yung priority nila. Something to think about. Okay, let's now proceed with the case of uh baba tayo. Uh, Philippines and Ghana. So, tingnan natin yung Philippines at Ghana. Ang Philippines, ito yung target. A reduction in emission uh, relative to business as usual on the condition of international support. And then yung Ghana, a 45% reduction in emissions by 2030 compared to business as usual levels. 15% of this is unconditional and 30% is conditional uh, upon international support and actions on adaptation. Okay, so do you think it's fair na same ang standards ng Philippines and Ghana? Let's look at the emissions. Ang emissions ng Philippines ay 0.32%. Ang Ghana ay 0.21%. And I want to say, class, that this term on the condition of international support. Okay, so what if we abide by this particular text, what if there is no international support? Are we beholden to our pledge of 70% reduction in emission relative to business as usual scenario? What do you think? So if you read the text, are we beholden to the 70% pledge if there is no condition, there is no international support? Right? Are we beholden to that support? Are we beholden? Okay, sabi ni Marvin James Coloma, given what you said po, since may clause po na international support, baka mahirapan na both countries po since in reality hindi po nagiging agenda ng country and sustainable. So ano sagot? So are we beholden pag walang international support? Sabi ni Fiona Beatriz del Mundo, no. Yes. Short answer is no. Okay, so no. So kung walang international support, we are not beholden. So class, so adding that particular clause means that kung walang support, Philippines will not um hindi ipa-prioritize ni Philippines ang climate change efforts. Okay. Is this clear? Okay. So let's now discuss the target of India. So India ang target nila ay 33 to 35% reduction in emissions intensity by uh, 2030 compared to 2005 levels. So I will discuss the meaning of emissions intensity. So also pledges to achieve 40% of cumulative electricity installed capacity from non-fossil fuel-based resources by 2030. Increase tree cover, blah, blah, blah. But I will just focus on this particular concept of emissions intensity. If you compare the words of the other countries, so tingnan natin yung words ng other countries, yung pledges ng other countries. Yung other countries ay ano, uh, let's look at EU and US. Ang term na ginamit nila ay domestic reduction in greenhouse gases. Ang EU ay domestic reduction in greenhouse gases. Ang ginamit na word ng India ay reduction in emissions intensity. Is this clear? I hope this is clear. Emissions intensity yung ginamit nila na word. Okay, let's proceed with our discussion. Okay, so let's discuss the meaning of emissions intensity. So the emissions intensity is given by emissions intensity is given by your emissions over GDP. Okay, is this clear? So let's continue. So let's say ang sabi is 35% reduction in EI. So, ibig sabihin kung marireduce ng 35% yung emissions intensity, ganito dapat yung target. So yung emissions intensity in 2030 should be equal to 0.65 of emissions intensity in 2005. Okay, is this clear? Okay, so let's continue. So yung EI noong 2030 is equal to 0.65 times emission in 2005 over GDP in 2005. Okay, which is also equal to emissions in 2030 all over GDP in 2030. Okay, so if you want to compute for our emissions, so our emissions in 2030 is equivalent to 0.65. Ito yung target natin, 0.65 yung factor kasi 35% reduction times GDP, ano lang to, transpose GDP in 2030 all over GDP in 2005 times emissions in 2005. Okay, so note GDP in 2030 can be projected to be equal to GDP in 2005 times yung ano growth rate, no? 1 plus growth rate raised to the 25th power. So this is the growth rate of GDP growth rate for the country. Tapos compound interest formula raised to the 25th power. Okay, paki-Google class. What is the GDP growth rate of India? Anyone? Kay Google. Okay, anyone? Paki-Google, paki-send sa chat. Okay, what else? Okay, so let's look. Sabi nila ay 7.2%. So let's plug in 7.2%. Okay, can you compute class? So this is equivalent to GDP in 2005 times 1 plus 0.072 kasi 7.2% yung sabi sa chat. Let's use that. Raised to the 25th power. So can you compute this? What is 1 plus 0.72 raised to the 25th power? Anyone? Okay, what is 1 plus 0.72 to the 25th power? Okay, so I would mag-chat yung iba pa so that I can confirm your answer kung tama. Okay, isa pa mag-PM. Okay, so may sumagot na sa akin. So based on their calculation, it's 5.69. Okay, so let's peg it as 5.69. Okay, so this is now equivalent to 5.69 times GDP in 2005. Okay, this is the GDP in 2030. Let's now substitute this value to this particular term. Okay, so makakancel yung GDP ng 2005. So this would become 0.65 times, ito makakancel, magigitong what? Let's choose another color. So this would become 5.69. Okay, paki-multiply 5.69 times 0.65 times emission 2005. So this is equivalent to what? Please multiply. What is 0.65 plus 5.69? Paki-chat. Okay, paki-chat, class. Okay, what else? Para i-confirm natin. I would want another calculation. Okay, so 3.7, 3.7, 3.7. So ang emissions ng 2030 would become 3.7 times the emission in 2005. Okay, so what happens to the emission in India based on their target? Can you comment on the value? Okay, comment on the value of India's projected emission projected 2030 emissions in comparison to 2005. Is this a justified target? How will you justify this target? Okay, pakisagot. So I would wait for 2 to 3 responses from the class. So ano nangyari sa pledge ng India? If we are to follow the pledge of India, what can you say about it? Is it justifiable for India to have this particular pledge of using emissions intensity in their language in contributing to climate change or climate change related endeavors? Okay, sige. Sige, meron ng dalawa. I would want another comment. Thank you. Magtawag kaya ako. Ito yung mga sumasagot, no? Teka, participant list. No? Ayan, may nag-sign out na, no? Ayan, participant list. De joke lang. Pwede ako magtawag, no? De joke lang. Wag na. Okay, class, let's compare India's target with US. Is it fair to compare India with US and EU? Dapat ba same, sige gana lang, dapat ba same ang or relatively same, dapat ba ang ginamit ng India ay um, reduction reduction or of emissions instead of emissions intensity? Okay, so tama, meron siyang opinion na EU and US are already developed and India papunta pa lang doon. So, okay pa si India na magkalat, no? Tama ba? Would you agree, class? Yun yung perspective ni India. So, hindi pa siya nakakapag-pollute enough, right? Samantalang si US and si EU, nag-pollute na, no? Kasi develop na sila. Would you agree? Okay, so I want to emphasize that may ganyang sentiment ang developing countries. We should not be pegged to a standard to contribute to climate change efforts similar to developing countries, to developed countries because for one, United Kingdom and United States, nag-pollute na sila ng environment since 1800s up until the present, no? And yung contribution nila sa pagsira sa environment mas malaki kaysa sa contribution ng India cumulatively. So si India, ang argument ng India ay no, we are still poor. Uh, we need to take care of our people first economically before we contribute efforts to actual reduction of uh, emissions. And if you think about it, class, they use an indicator. Yung indicator nila ay yung language nila ginamit is emissions intensity. They use a different metric, emissions intensity. If you think about it, class, this is a rate. This is a rate na indicator. As long as the rate of emission is below the rate of growth, economic growth, ma-maintain mo yung you can meet the indicator na target, no? Pwedeng tumataas yung emissions mo as long as your growth outpaces your emissions. Ibig sabihin you're more efficient kasi bumababa yung emissions intensity and you're more efficient in managing your waste subject to your economic capacity. I hope this is clear. Clear ba? So we can say that by choosing emissions intensity as their target, they are really not focusing more on their climate-related endeavors. Mas focus pa rin nila yung economy nila when they deliberately choose emissions intensity. Take note, class, the emissions intensity target are the targets used by our neighbors. So si Vietnam, sino pa ba? Si Singapore, emissions intensity yung ginamit nila na word. So our neighbors actually do not care about, pag tinignan nyo class, climate change effort. So let's now look at China. China, ganun din. So using the same argument, emissions intensity, then you will see that China also has the same scenario of targets. No, they do not intend to reduce emissions. What they intend to reduce is emissions intensity. So same argument as India. So there's kasi iba yung starting point ng mga countries, yun yung main argument nila. Okay, so I wanted to assess the use of the following words in setting targets. So we have the illusion that that we are contributing to climate change efforts. But if you think about it, may hierarchy class ng kung sino yung seryoso sa climate change effort. I would commend Europe for having targets na medyo hindi ano, no, hindi siya confusing, no, to normal people. But if you think about it, yung 15% of this is unconditional relative to international support or subject to conditional report. It appears to, if you think about it, does not uh, commit to anything, no? Kailangan may kapalit bago ka mag-commit ng pledge yun sa Philippines. So, this pledge of the Philippines is smartly worded, no? Kaya it doesn't make sense kung bakit si Duterte ay ayaw mag-climate change uh, pledge during his term. When in fact, Philippines did not promise anything, no? Kasi wala namang, it's subject to uh, international pledge, international support. So, kung walang international support, edi wala. So, parang wala tayong pinramis dun sa pagkaka-word. Reduction of emission, yung actually perfect, pero yung emissions intensity at emissions intensity per GDP, these are rate indicators. And yung dapat pag inisip nyo, the rate of the growth rate ratio is decreasing. Parang joke siya, di ba? Second derivative yata or third derivative na siya, no? So, pag binasa mo, isang basa mo dun sa word, parang okay, it's nice hearing, pero if you interpret it, nagde-deal na siya with second derivative ng isang isang function, or kasi nga may rate of change pa nung second derivative, third derivative na. So, parang ano na siya, it's complicated na nasa document, and it's not straightforward, and it's deliberately uh, worded in that way so that hindi easily realizable na tumataas pala yung emissions at the end of the day. Okay, is this clear? Okay, sige. So, nakita nyo na class na medyo naglolokohan tayo dito, no? Medyo ah questionable ang pledges ng mga countries. Okay? So, is there's a sense of using, may sense pa ba, class, na i-respect ang isang document na hindi naman seryoso? Yung ganyan, yung exercise na may sense pa ba na may document ng pledge when majority of the countries are not serious about it. Kasi parang halimbawa si China and si India, tataas pa rin naman yung emissions nila. Tayo, yung wording natin, conditional on international support. So meron tayong lusot, di ba? I think if you look at, if you compare Ghana and Philippines, mas may weight pa yung pledge ng Ghana in comparison to Philippines. So do you think may sense ba na may document ng pledge na hindi naman seryoso ang mga tao? May point pa ba, class? Na meron tayong document na ganito? When countries are not that serious. What's the point of having a meeting globally when yung targets nga ay majority ng countries hindi naman nila nire-reduce yung emissions nila? China and India for one, di ba? Yung malalaking countries. So, what do you think is the point here? Is this exercise fruitless? Okay. Pakisagot. Ay, sige, i-reflect nyo na lang yan, class. So, I'll just proceed with the lecture. Okay, so these are the Sustainable Development Goals. So I think you have already seen this. So I want you to to note that there is this particular mindset that nasasatisfy niya yung 3 E's. So yung environment, you have your economy, and then you have your equity. So social justice is would correspond to equity. Environmental concerns would respond to environment, and pera-pera would correspond to economy. So these are the 3 E's of sustainability. So the sustainable solution is ideally worded as development that addresses the 3 domains. So it's equitable, it's environmental, and it's economic. But I want you to another framework that you can think of this as a tug of war between the 3 domains. So meron kang 3 domains, and hindi siya fully equitable. So there's this equity aspect na address. Hindi siya fully environmental, but there's some environmental aspect being addressed, and hindi siya fully economical, but there is still some economic aspect being addressed. So it's a negotiation between the 3 domains. So I want you to have another perspective of what sustainability is. Yung isa is dapat masatisfy niya yung tatlo, and the other is a compromise between the 3. Okay, class? Is this clear? So yung isa is medyo, yung isa, yung satisfies satisfy all 3 conditions, equitable siya, uh, environmental, and economic. So kinakahon mo siya sa tatlo, parang Venn diagram, no? So kailangan yung tatlo. Yung isa naman, yung isang perspective is, yung second perspective is um, negotiation between the 3. So let's say pwede mong isipin as ano, it's let's say X% equitable, tapos meron kang Y% environmental. Okay, meron kang Z% economic. Tapos you haggle kung ano, kung ilang percent sa spectrum siya magmo-move. Okay, the 3 haggle with each other, negotiate. So ito medyo spectral view, 'di ba? Mahilig ako magsabi ng word na spectrum. It's a spectrum. So it's not so yung equity hindi mo siya i-consider as binary concept na is it equitable or not equitable. If you view equity in a lens of in a spectrum, meron kang spectra na it's very equitable to not equitable. So meron kang spectra, 'di ba? So may percentage, or on a scale of 0 to 100, meron kang equity index, so meron kang environment index and economy index. So it's a negotiation between the 3. Okay, and the sustainable solution is some stable solution that exists. So, yan, exist, no? Na nag-exist sa totoong mundo. According to Sagan, no, may rules of the universe. So, hindi porket in-idealize mo na ang planets ay dapat dodecahedron, magmamanifest na dodecahedron ng mga planets. So, medyo spherical pa rin ang mga planets, no? So, you can think of it that way. So, you have an idealized version of what is equitable, what is environmental, or what is economic. But in reality, yung society at culture natin, you can only be this much equitable, this much environmental, and this much economic, because culture and environment and society would limit, 'di ba? Yung realidad sa ground would limit what is um applicable from your ideals, 'di ba? This is from Sagan, 'di ba? Yung ano yung rules ng universe, you have this counterpart in culture and environment as well. Hindi porket meron kang ideals, it would manifest in reality. So may rules yung yung universe, yung analog niya is yung culture and society na possibly hindi mag-work yung ideals na meron ka. Okay, is this clear? Okay, so introduce ko lang yung idea na it's a negotiation between the three terms. Okay. Okay, let's proceed. Okay, so manufacturing. So case na lang i-dis sa yung plastic and itong manufacturing ng e-waste. So you can think of it this way, no? So some semblance of a sustainable solution or ano na lang, ede, mas madali yung sa tingi culture. Okay. So did Filipinos tingi culture pave the way for plastic sachet in the Philippines? So class, nagsasachet ba kayo? Nagsasachet? Nagsasachet? Okay, sige. Yung sino yung bagong pasok? Si De La Cruz? Ayan, nagsasachet ka. Do you think, class, that sachets affect environment negatively?
Sir, hello po.
Okay, go.
Yes po, minsan po, like sa sachet sa shampoo po. I think, sir, yung plastics naman po nakaka-affect po talaga siya negatively sa environment po natin kapag masyado po.
Yeah. So, should we ban it? Should we discourage the use of plastic for environment to address environment issues?
Sir, I think hindi naman po need na like i-ban po siya totally. I think it's more of po doon sa how we're gonna manage the waste if we're gonna recycle it po para po mas magamit pa po siya and mas ma-reuse po natin. And also maybe lessen din po yung ayun po.
Okay, sige. So, kapag hindi, sige, other students, kapag ba tinanggal natin yung sachet, sino yung mas maapektuhan? Okay, sige. Is plastic sachet removal equitable? Okay, so if you think about it, hindi, 'di ba? Yung marginalized yung affect kasi with the sachets, it paved the way for goods to be accessed by those who do not have much resources, no? Kung may, let's say, minimum wage earner ka, hindi ka bibili ng malaking shampoo. So, it would be in your interest to access goods na tingi-tingi, no? Maliliit, nasa sachet. So, kapag tinanggal natin ang sachet, so goods that were previously accessible to the poor would not be accessible anymore. So is this particular solution equitable? Not really. Pero if we focus too much on equity, na may maka-access ng products yung mas maraming tao, ano mangyayari sa environment? So magre-react naman si environment. So kung masyado naman tayong equitable, sino yung makikinabang doon? Yung companies, tsaka maraming tao kasi marami silang pera, tsaka maraming makaka-access ng products. If we focus too much on equity and economy, yung pera-pera ng malalaking companies, magre-revenge naman yung environment, no? So, it's a negotiation between the three. You can think of it as a negotiation between the three domains. So, some solution is that, let's say, i-tax mo ng konti yung mga sachet and may konting burden sa mga mahihirap na nag-access ng goods, and then use let's say, the proceeds from the taxes collected to use it as funds for environmental mitigation from the impacts of plastic use, di ba? So you can, if you think of it that way, babawasan mo ng konti yung equity na spectra kasi naglagay ka ng tax, so it's less accessible. Tapos since it's less accessible, konti ng pera-pera yung mga malalaking companies. And although hindi na-address yung environment fully, the ramifications, since there's some environmental mitigation that was done, or some resources is allocated towards environmental mitigation, hindi pag nagkaroon ng long-term effect, hindi ganun kalakas yung effect ng environment, yung revenge ng environment sa mga tao. Is this clear? So I want you to have this mindset that sustainability is a negotiation between the three domains. Any questions? Kasi nga dito sa case na to, hindi mo pwedeng tanggalin zero plastic, no? I think it's not viable. Any questions? Kasi medyo ako, kung ano yung solution na nag-work sa totoong mundo, yun yung parang i-highlight natin. Okay, let's discuss class yung coal. Energy naman natin sa Philippines. So, merong tayong move towards more renewable energy, but yung trend ng Philippines, tingnan natin yung share ng coal. Dati noong 2005, ang share ng coal ay 25.4% in tawag dito, capacity ng production. Tapos noong 2020, naging 41.7%. Yung capacity this is in power. Pero yung actual power is energy over time. Pero ito yung mas I think dapat variable na ma-highlight, which is yung actual energy generated. Yung share ng coal ay dati 27%, ngayon in 2020 it's 57%. I think this is even higher now. So dumami yung coal power plants after the Paris Agreement was signed. So hindi natin respect yung Paris Agreement. Okay. So class, bakit tayo nagko-coal pa rin? And we are not choosing other sources. So coal is still cheaper. It's the cheapest source. Cheapest and most reliable. But not environmentally friendly. Okay, class. So, sige. Ito class, this table siguro is some justification of our coal usage pa rin kasi let's say yung Vietnam, yung kapitbahay natin with the similar population. Noong 2016 nila na-reach yung 63.9 terawatt coal power generation. Tapos yung Malaysia, 2015, which is a smaller country. Indonesia, 2006 nila na-reach yung same level natin na na-reach noong 2020. Taiwan is on 1996, Korea and Spain in the 90s and 89. So what is my point here? Sige, ano yung point nitong graph na to? Just like the Indian and Chinese na perspective, konti pa lang na pollute ng Philippines, konti ang na-pollute ng Philippines compared sa ibang countries. Pwede pa tayong mag-pollute, no? sa other countries. Okay. Nakikita niyo ba, class? So I'm presenting this particular perspective na compared sa kapitbahay natin, Malaysia, energy demand per capita, ang Philippines mababa, no? Nandito. Compared sa Singapore, Brunei, average ng Southeast Asia, compared sa Indonesia, Vietnam, and Thailand, mas mababa si Philippines. So anong point dito? Pwede pa mag-pollute. We are not as polluting as other countries. So ang mindset ng government is, yeah, we should So yung recent mindset niya is magtayo pa ng maraming coal power plant. But eventually, this should not be the case kasi if you want to generate more energy and magtayo ka na magtayo ng coal power plant, eventually, in the long term, maghihiganti pa rin si environment. So it's not, itong argument na to ay, yeah, meron tayong parang way to argue na yes, we can still generate more energy via coal, pero hindi rin okay siya long term. Okay, so I want to emphasize class that if we look at the equity aspect, yung equity aspect nito class, yung access to electricity, this is the electrification level of the Philippines. So we have 90, this is by 2020, December. So 95% of households are electrified. May kuryente. Ano ibig sabihin class nito? 95% ng household ay may kuryente. 5% wala pa. So 5% in real numbers, this corresponds to how many Filipinos? Kung 110 million, so 5 to 6 million Filipinos. Wala pang kuryente. In Mindanao, you have a higher proportion of non-electrification. So around 16% ng household sa Mindanao walang kuryente. Okay. So what's your take on this, class? If you are a policymaker, ano yung mas important sa inyo? Yung equity, yung may access to electricity, yung priority lang. Kasi this is a class or reducing emission. Which is of priority to you? Yun, so nag-leave ulit siya, no? Sino yung nag-leave? So which is of a higher priority to you? Saan kayo mas naglilin na i-prioritize ng government? Anyone? Okay, both naman po, pero reducing emissions because the long-term effects can be more harmful. Okay. Okay, what else? Okay, so si Marvin, access to electricity since most of the poor communities don't even have electricities to begin with. Si Gabriel, long-term naman sa population. Ayun nga, yung mga mahihirap na tao, wala pang kuryente, how would I think about long-term, yung argument na yun, hindi sila makapag-isip ng bukas pa kasi wala pa sila nung survival for now, no? So pag inisip mo may argument for that. Pero pag inisip mo din kapag hindi mo naman inaddress yung future, baka you will not proceed somewhere, no? So it's not a straightforward solution, no? So you need to address some things first, may pa-prioritize ka, pero somehow meron ka pa rin dapat gawin to address the other problem. Ito class, I want to highlight this. Class, energy access. So for example, yung mga lugar na walang kuryente, they do not have the ability to study at night have economic activity and have access to other markets. So I want to highlight this again and again that in order to self-actualize, you need energy. So self-actualization is an energy-intensive process. It's hard to visualize reaching one person's goal if you do not have access to energy. Okay, class? And I believe, class, that it is the goal of the government that many people reach their full potential. Yun yung parang goal natin. Maraming tao mag-self-actualize. And energy is an important ingredient in self-actualization. So hindi straightforward, class, ang addressing environmental concerns kasi meron kang equity related concerns that should also be addressed. Since anthropogenic tayo, tao yung first center. So it's important. So class, renewable energy sources also has some problems pero minimal ito compared sa fossil fuel. So hydroelectric power, if you build a dam, you might interfere with indigenous people's rights and then may impact to environment yung new dams. Solar panel, large land space and food production, no? Kailangan ng solar panel, solar farms ideally nasa flat place. Kasi halimbawa nagkabagyo, magka-landslide, sila ang solar farm mo. So it's competing with food security. And then eventual waste disposal of photovoltaics is a problem that we will face 20 to 30 years from now. Kakakabit ko pa lang ng solar sa bahay. So, yung problem ng pagtapon ko ng solar panel, senior citizen na ako. And then, you have your wind turbine offshore. May impact yan sa water quality. Magtatayo ka ng transmission lines from the ocean papunta sa shore. Mas maganda kasi yung offshore eh. And then may impact siya sa birds and marine ecosystem. Tsaka pangit tingnan. Well, okay naman siya sa akin tingnan. And then maingay siya. So yan yung pero these are very minor in comparison to fossil fuels, yung negative effect. Class, I want to emphasize that yung mining sa Philippines na meron tayong corporate social responsibility, yung mga mining companies. So although I think this is tawag dito, an example of a solution that works in the real world. Ito, for example, yung equity. It's not really equitable, not really, but merong reduction of equity. Sa economy, may reduction of income. Sa environment, not really environmental, but some aspect of environmental mitigation conducted. Some version, environmental mitigation conducted. So it's a compromise between the three. So yung mga mining companies ngayon, by law, 1%, at least 1% is earmarked of gross revenue ha, it's not the profit, as royalty for the IPs. So may para kang royalty. So you're addressing equity related issues here kasi yung typical na mining company dati kinakamkam lahat ng pera, no? So ngayon meron kang ini-earmark for the IPs na royalty. So kung halimbawa ang mining company mo nasa 10 billion, 1% of that yung revenue. So what's 1% of 10 billion? So 10% is 1 billion. This is 100 million. Tama? Pesos. para sa IPs. Malaki ang pera na yan, class. So, since meron kang actual na binibigay na pera sa IPs, we can argue that there's some reduction of reduction of inequity, yung term. There's still the relationship is still inequitable, but may argument ka na there's reduction of inequity. Economic, meron kang reduction of income kasi instead na kakamkamin lahat ng mining companies yung pera, meron kang environmental project, mga tree planting na ginagawa ng mining companies for tax break, yung corporate social responsibility, may tree planting ka na ginagawa. So, instead na kamkamin ng mining company lahat ng income, part of it napupunta sa environmental mitigation, part of it napupunta sa royalty ng mga IPs. So, it's not fully economic dun sa company. And then yung environment, although meron ka pa ring mine tailings, since meron kang tree planting, meron kang other efforts to address the issue, hindi ganun kalala ang environmental effect ng pagmimina. So, it's not fully equitable kasi yung mining company, kinakamkam pa rin yung lupa nung IP, but it's not as inequitable kasi meron kang royalty na binibigay. It's not fully economical because instead of getting all the income from the natural resources, some of it is being given to the communities and some of it is being given to corporate social responsibility efforts such as tree planting and reforestation efforts. And then it's not fully environmental kasi nga nagmimina ka pa rin at the end of the day and you are disturbing the environmental integrity of the area. So, this is an example of a compromise between the three domains. Okay, so I want to highlight that nung time ni Gina Lopez, pinasara niya yung Surigao mining companies and ito, nagrally yung mga tao. They are against the closure of the mines. Bakit, guys? Bakit against yung mga IPs? Anyone? Bakit against ang mga IPs? Ayaw ng mga IPs. Isara ang mining company sa Surigao. Okay, during Gina Lopez time. Anyone? Mawawala yung benefits nila. Clear. Ganun lang, class. Mawawala yung royalty. Wala na yung mining company, wala na silang royalty. So, not to be parang a very cynical person, but mawawala ng income yung IP, nakatikim na sila ng income from the mining companies, yung revenue nila for a number of years. They don't want to go back to a time na wala yung guaranteed income na yun. So it's a reality on the ground. Okay. So lithium is a resource that would eventually, actually it's being highly demanded now. So yung problems na nakita nyo sa nickel in the Philippines would be a continuing issue later on. Same din with cobalt in Africa. Okay, class, water is an important resource. I think if countries learn how to share their resources with each other properly, equitably, and na tama environmentally, mababawasan ang conflict sa mundo. Okay. Let's now discuss fishing. Fish naman as a resource. Um, Impact, sustainability, no? So, sustainability yung topic natin. So, magkakaroon kayo ng homework. So, it would be due sometime next, this Friday. Pakisagutan. So, fishing moratorium. So, ito, yung fish. Should we, um, should we impose fishing holidays? Ibig sabihin yung pipigilan natin yung mga isda, fishing holidays. Should we impose fishing holidays? May karapatan ba tayo mag-impose ng fishing holidays? So, environmentally, yes. Kasi if we continue fishing, we are disturbing the environment. If we try to ban fishing, would be equitable for the people concerned, maapektuhan yung mga uh, fisher folk at saka yung mga malalaking fishing vessels, commercial vessels. So if we ban fishing, um, may argue that it's not equitable and mababawasan din yung income nila. Clear? So we can let's say we can reduce the time frame for the fishing ban or increase the time frame depending on what is optimal for the stakeholders that are concerned stakeholders. Hindi din naman kasi pwede mag-fish yung fisher folk tsaka yung mga big fishing vessel. Kasi pag nag-fish sila na nag-fish, um, yung environmental backlash naman is mawawalan ka ng ng isda, no? So we should still respect the environment. Okay, so ito yung parang homework nyo. Pakisagutan na lang sa Canvas. Sandali. So yung pag-declare ng fishing moratorium, yung pag-ban ng pangingisda. Let's discuss the idea of nationality of a fish. Discuss how the concept of exclusive economic zones might have an impact on how nations deal with how their fisher folk acquire fish. This is an anthropogenic view. Discuss how a fish might view its nationality and how should countries implement fishing moratorium. So I'll discuss a case study of countries fishing with each other, no? Yung laws between fishing. Let's discuss the case of the Philippines and Papua New Guinea. So let's consider the industry of tuna fishing. Sige, ito muna, class. Illegal fishing. EU issues warnings to Philippines and Papua New Guinea. Class, may karapatan ba ang EU na mag-issue ng warning sa Philippines about illegal fishing sa Pilipinas? Anong karapatan ng EU to issue warnings on illegal fishing? In Papua New Guinea? Anyone? By the way, this is Papua New Guinea. Ito yung part na ito yung Papua New Guinea. Anyone, class? Is EU overstepping its mandate? Yan, pag inisip natin, mukha siyang out of jurisdiction, but EU is trading with our tuna, no? Trading with our tuna. So, kung saan nanggaling yung tuna natin, mukhang meron silang say. So kung illegal yung pangingisda nyo ng tuna, maybe we should not tolerate that and not buy from the Philippines. Okay. And so, something to think about. Okay, class, ito yung ito yung Philippines, yung fishing industry. So, meron tayo sa Zamboanga. And meron dito sa General Santos. Yun yung mga malalaki nating yung mga fishing companies na may malalaking fishing vessels. They are in Zamboanga and Gensan. So, class, yung tuna, um, naglalangoy yan, class. So, may mga times na marami sila in certain areas and then may times na marami sila on other areas. So, meron tayong mga fisher folk na nangingisda minsan dito sa Bismarck Sea and nanguhuli sa may dagat ng Papua New Guinea. So, currently, this is by 2017, 1 in 5 fish caught in Papua New Guinea waters is processed inside the country. 1 out of 5. So, saan napupunta yung 4 out of 5? Sa Pilipinas. So, yung mga fishing vessel na nangingisda sa Bismarck Sea, pupunta sa Pilipinas at doon ipoprocess. And natitrete ng Philippines during that time kasi hindi nila gusto yon na yung isda na mahuhuli sa Papua New Guinea dapat i-process sa Papua New Guinea. Do you think Papua New Guinea is reasonable na gusto nila na yung mahuhuling isda sa Bismarck Sea ay ipoprocess sa Papua New Guinea? Do you think it's reasonable? Okay, mukha namang reasonable, 'di ba? Hinuli niyo yung isda sa dagat namin. Sana naman makinabang yung bansa namin dun sa pangingisda niyo dun sa dagat namin, no, yung mga malalaking companies sa Philippines. So, bakit to may aspect ng sustainability? So, bakit nangingisda ang mga Pilipino sa Papua New Guinea? For one, dapat ba bawal tayong mangisda sa Papua New Guinea Sea? What's your take on that? Okay, sagutin nyo na lang yan sometime. Pag-isipan nyo, class. Ito. Um, Ganito na lang, class. I-update ko na lang kayo. Na-resolve siya. So, meron lang National Fisheries Exchange Program between Philippines and Papua New Guinea. And yes, nag-agree ang Philippines um, to process most of the fish caught in Bismarck Sea in Papua New Guinea. And then nagtayo yung mga companies natin doon ng fishing canning companies. So our Filipino business people are ang tawag dito, nagbi-business na sa Papua New Guinea. And then may fisheries team exchange from Papua New Guinea papunta sa General Santos and Zamboanga. So may collaboration na between Philippines and Papua New Guinea. So dati ang relationship ng Philippines and Papua New Guinea ay very, very tense. But now we are cooperating with each other. Okay, any questions, class, sa case ng Philippines and Papua New Guinea? So I want you to look into this particular case and look at and then yung current issue natin with China and Philippines to address yung concept nito. Kasi gusto kong ipakita dito sa case ng Papua New Guinea that yung swimming pattern ng mga isda Yun yung sinusunod ng mga fishing vessel para mangisda ng tuna. Okay, so I want you to also read on the nickel export case in Indonesia. So ito, class arguments ng environment yung ginamit ng EU. I want you to look into it, class. Yung arguments ng environment. Environmental arguments. So si Indonesia, class, Indonesia nag-ban ng export ng raw nickel. So ayaw ng Indonesia na mag-export ng raw nickel, yung nickel ore. Ayaw nila mag-export. Ang gusto nila, class, is i-process muna ang raw nickel. Process raw nickel, so mas mataas na yung value. So yung byproduct nila yung kanilang in-export. Yung byproduct na nickel yung kanilang in-export. So there is a ban on export of raw nickel ore. Okay, class. Yung World Trade Organization nagbinak, sinuportahan ng EU in nickel dispute. Ayaw ng EU yung ban sa raw nickel export ng Indonesia. So ano yung main argument ng EU? Yung kanilang, I want you to read on this. So yung main argument ng EU is that yung ang tag dito, processing standards of nickel ore production, of nickel processing ng Indonesia ay higher yung greenhouse gas emission, GHG emission ng Indonesia. So kung in-export nila yung raw nickel at pinrocess for example sa Germany, mas mababa yung magiging greenhouse gas emission if the raw nickel ore is processed in Germany. Okay. I want you to reflect on that and then pag-isipan nyo, class. Kung kayo ay Indonesia, what would be your country interest? And merong arguments against the environmental sustainability of processing your nickel ore samples in your country. Would you lend credence to the arguments of the Germans or halimbawa yung Europeans na it's not environmentally sustainable? So, ganito na lang, class. I want you to realize that pwedeng gamitin, class, yung yung arguments for reducing emission, let's say ganito, yung sa natural resource dispute in trade. So pag-isipan nyo to, class, ha, basa-basahin nyo to, ha. How does this benefit the Philippines? So Google nyo yung conflict on nickel export. Hindi, babaguhin ko to, class. Palm oil na lang. Palm oil conflict na lang. Then I want you to note of the nickel export issue in Indonesia. So bagong conflict yung i-highlight ko dito. How does this impact the Philippines? So recently, Ursula von der Leyen, yung EU leader, visited the Philippines. So ang issue ng pag-visit ng Philippines is more on Russia-Ukraine war and then yung China-Taiwan related conflict, no? But if you read the article, somewhere in the middle, there's this natural resource related discussion being highlighted. We cannot choose our labors, but what we do with business with what terms in Russia. We made a mistake with Russia and then nandito siya sa Philippines. Na-mention sa article that the Philippines, he said, export 90% of its nickel ore to China instead of processing it inside the country to create more jobs and added value. So I want to highlight the hypocrisy of the Europeans. they are filing protests against Indonesia because Indonesia wants to process their nickel ore in their country. But yung Philippines, gusto nilang mag-process ng nickel ore kasi ini-export natin yung nickel ore natin sa China. Yung case with Indonesia is something that is, I think, beneficial to us because instead of just exporting our nickel ore to China, meron ka ng nanliligaw na European market na bumibisita sa Philippines. So, I just want you to look into yung raw material related interest pa rin ng ating mga Western colonial powers with respect to our existing natural resources na present sa Philippines, no? I think the colonial powers that be are still trying to attempt to control resources around the world, no? So hindi pa rin siya fully nawawala. So may question tayo about palm oil uh related related stuff sa homework ninyo. And basahin niyo na lang to, class. Yung at GSP trade agreements with the Philippines. Ang point dito, class, is this. Trade agreements are beneficial to countries, but it is another way by which countries can control another country. Ganun na lang. So, yan, okay. Thank you very much. Okay, do you have any questions? So may homework kayo, I will release in Canvas. Do you have any questions? So next meeting, I will meet you face to face. Okay? Kung wala na, class dismiss. Thank you. May homework kayo.